the paradox of freedom and providence. At the heart of human existence lies a mystery. If God governs all things with perfect wisdom, how can we be truly free? This question haunted philosophers and theologians for centuries. Thomas Aquinas, the 13th century Dominican philosopher and theologian, offered one of the most profound answers ever conceived. For Aquinas, divine providence, God's eternal plan for creation, does not crush human freedom. Instead, it is the very condition that makes freedom possible. God's will and human will are not rival forces, but dimensions of a single harmony that reflects the intelligence of the Creator and the dignity of the creature, the vision of divine order. To understand Aquinas' thought, we must begin with his vision of God as pure act of being, ipsum esse subsistens, the self-existent reality upon which all else depends. From this infinite source, creation unfolds not as chaos but as ordered participation in divine wisdom. Providence, in Aquinas' framework, is God's eternal plan by which everything in creation is guided toward its proper end. But this plan does not operate like a rigid script. It is dynamic, intelligent, and participatory. Each creature acts according to its own nature. The stars follow their courses, the trees grow toward light, and humans choose through reason and will. Divine order is not mechanical determination. It is the music of creation, where every being plays its part in the symphony of divine intention. Providence as divine intelligence in action. For Aquinas, providence resides first in the mind of God. It is the plan, the blueprint, of how divine goodness will be expressed through creation. This plan extends to every detail, yet it operates through secondary causes, the natural laws, circumstances, and choices that unfold within time. God does not manipulate events from outside, but sustains them from within. As Aquinas writes in the Summa Theologiae, divine providence does not destroy contingency, but embraces it. The freedom of the world, its unpredictability and drama, are not threats to God's sovereignty, but expressions of his infinite wisdom. God's providence, therefore, is not coercion, but the invitation of being itself to cooperate in its own fulfillment. Human freedom in the light of providence. If God knows and wills all things, does that mean our choices are illusions? Aquinas answers with a subtle but radical distinction. God's knowledge is not temporal. He does not foresee events in a future yet to happen. He knows all things in an eternal present. From this perspective, divine foreknowledge does not impose necessity upon human acts. When we choose freely, we fulfill what God eternally knows without being forced to do so. God's causality operates at a deeper level than physical or psychological influence. It sustains our very capacity to choose. Thus, freedom is not the absence of divine will. It is the participation of the finite will in the infinite. Grace and cooperation. Aquinas' understanding of freedom is inseparable from his theology of grace. Grace does not override human nature, it perfects it. Providence works through both natural and supernatural means, guiding creation through instinct, reason, and revelation. In this framework, human freedom is elevated, not diminished, by divine action. God moves all things, including the human will, not as a puppeteer, but as the first cause empowering secondary causes. When we act in harmony with divine will, we experience freedom in its truest form, not as autonomy from God, but as alignment with the deepest truth of our being. The highest freedom is the realization that to choose the good is to choose God himself, the ultimate end of all desire, evil, chance, and the wisdom of the plan. A central question remains: if God governs all things, why does evil exist? Aquinas explains that providence allows both necessity and contingency. the unfolding of both good and apparent disorder, because from the divine perspective, even what we call evil can serve a higher harmony. God does not will evil directly, but permits it for the sake of greater good, as the dark contrast through which light is revealed. In this sense, providence is not the elimination of suffering, but its transfiguration into meaning. What we experience as chaos may be the unfolding of an order beyond our comprehension. Freedom, then, includes the possibility of error, yet even error, through divine wisdom, can become the path to grace. The cosmos as participatory order. For Aquinas, the harmony between providence and freedom mirrors the structure of the cosmos itself. Every level of being participates in the divine order according to its nature. Angels know intuitively, humans deliberate, the elements follow physical laws. Providence is the thread that unites these orders into a coherent whole. In this living hierarchy, nothing is insignificant. The fall of a leaf, the rise of an empire, the whisper of a prayer, all are woven into the tapestry of divine purpose. The human role is not passive submission, but active participation in this order through reason and love. Freedom becomes the conscious cooperation with the divine rhythm that sustains all things. The harmony of providence and freedom. Ultimately, Aquinas offers a vision of reality where divine providence and human freedom are not opposing forces, but two sides of one mystery. God's will does not compete with ours, it empowers it. The divine plan does not negate individuality, it fulfills it. To live within providence is to awaken to the awareness that every choice, every moment, is already embraced by divine intelligence, and yet remains genuinely our own. In this paradox, Aquinas found the essence of faith, to trust that freedom is sacred because it is rooted in God, and that providence is loving because it never violates the dignity of the will it created. The freedom within the divine plan. In Aquinas' vision, God is not a distant ruler, but the very act of being that flows through all existence. Providence is the wisdom of that being, guiding every creature toward its fulfillment. Freedom is our capacity to consciously participate in that journey. The more we align with divine order, the more liberated we become, not constrained by fate, but awakened to the infinite intelligence working through us. In this light, the mystery of providence and freedom ceases to be a contradiction and becomes a revelation. That the universe is not governed by domination, but by love, and that the freedom of the human soul is the reflection of the divine will unfolding in time.